everybody. Am I on? Can you hear me? Welcome to our July Bayou Blue monthly meeting. I'm Ingrid Bond, and I'm the president, and we've got our board members here with us virtually. Eliza Garrett's our vice president, Rob Hallenbach, our SD 15 representative, Yvonne Miles, SD 17 representative. We've got Greg Fleischiker, our communications liaison, David Feldwich, our treasurer, and Raj Sahota, our secretary. Our topic for tonight is an invitation to action. We've got an update from several of our key races in the area, and the candidates or their campaigns are going to update us on what's going on right now and involved and help us with all these great candidates. I just wanted to make a note that we can be thankful that our mayor, Sylvester Turner, has taken the necessary and courageous action to use his authority to cancel the contract for the Republican State Convention that was scheduled for next weekend. That was a necessary step, and unfortunately the GOP couldn't take it upon themselves to make it on their own. And I just want to say, as we've been we didn't have a meeting last month, but ever called to action because we are enduring the cruel and reckless policies of the current Republican leaders. And if we don't succeed in voting in a blue Democratic wave, their philosophy is going to be ingrained on this country irrevocably. And the economic, physical, and mental carnage that these thugs that now control the Washington are just unconscionable. We cannot let them continue the worship of the dollars and the power above everything that they do. So please join me. I offer you solace that I have found in joining with those of us who are like-minded in taking action, and we will work and hope for the change to rectify this course. So I just had to speak my mind. I've been thinking all day of how I feel, and that is right there what it is. So before we get started with our panelists, I just want to say that early voting is going on, and I hope everybody may have already taken that opportunity to vote. But if not, it goes through Friday, and for Friday only, the polls are open till 10 o'clock at night. And then of course, Election Day is July 14th. The key races that you should know about are for Senate, we have Royce West against MJ Hager. For Railroad Commissioner, we have Christy Castaneda with running against Robert Alonzo. We've got State Board of Education, position 6, Michelle Palmer running against Kimberly McLeod, and the Justice of the 14th Court of Appeals, Sherry Thomas against Tammy Kraft. There are a few other state representative runoffs and criminal courts, but those are the key ones that affect our area. And I just also wanted to say that we've begun a fundraiser for our club, and there are these blue flamingos. It's the Blue Flamingo fundraiser. And I think we've got a slide about what it takes to just look at our website or Facebook page, and you can click for $25. You get a blue flamingo that has a sign around its neck that says, "Vote Blue for 2020." And you can buy one or a whole flock in your yard. And we had a trial order period, and we sold out. So now we're having to say that we're taking orders, and we will get them to you as soon as we can. I think it's about a 2-week lead time. So if you'd like to have these decorations, please check that out. And so I'd also like to introduce David Lee. For those of you who don't know, he has been an amazing advocate for all kinds of Democratic candidates and actions. He's a precinct chair. He was a key advisor to the Beto campaign and ran the Houston efforts of Michael Bloomberg. Now he's, well, I'm not going to talk about his PAC because I think we're going to talk about that at a later meeting, but he also owns the Texas Signal, which is a statewide progressive news media outlet. And Dave, tell us about the Signal and maybe how we can support you.
Yeah, thank you, Ingrid, and thank you all so much for having me on. I'm a big fan of your organization. I've been to a lot of your meetings, and I've just been so impressed. And so keep up the great work, especially during these crazy times. As Ingrid said, I'm David Lee. I'm the owner of the Texas Signal and president. It's a kind of a funny how we all got involved in this, Sima as well. And so basically on Beto's Senate race, I was on his policy team, and my main job was to brief Beto and the policy director on major breaking political news in the state. And so by hour like 2, I quickly realized the quality and the quantity of the political news in the state was just so lacking. And I was just so frustrated, and I went to Sima, and Sima was just like, oh my gosh, you're preaching to the choir here. And so we got together, and a couple of other people, and we started it last year. And so now it's grown to a staff of over 9 people. We have about 4 staff writers, and we have 3 contributing writers. And so we're doing some really cool stuff in terms of our reporting across the state. We're right now, we've been focusing a lot on Houston, of course, because a lot of us have connections here, but Dallas has been a key area for us, especially with all the House races that are incredibly competitive right now for Democrats. And so we've been doing a lot of Dallas coverage. If I can ask, if you guys have anybody you think would be great to cover our San Antonio kind of area politically, if you can just let me know, or Ingrid, you can email me at david@texassignal.com. We really want to focus on San Antonio after our Dallas outreach. And then also for next year, for session, we're going to be hiring a full-time reporter to cover the day-to-day session up in Austin, so that we can make sure that progressives in the state know what's going on and what are the important issues that are being discussed. And so lots of great momentum, great energy. Come visit us at texassignal.com. Like us on Facebook. We're on all the social media channels. And so we'd love to have you involved.
Thank you so much, David. And as having been able to have a close look at everything you do, it's just really amazing. Great quality of journalism. So everybody, please do follow them. And I like your Sunday signal. There's always a Sunday evening release. So thank you. Okay, well, thank everybody for joining us. It looks like we've got a nice crowd out there. And the first panelist that I'd like to introduce is my dear friend, who I met when our kids were in preschool together. And I knew she was amazing then as a working mother and amazing volunteer. And I'm just so proud that her efforts in politics have led to this cresting moment. And without further ado, I introduce Sima, running for Congressional District 2 against Dan Crenshaw.
Thank you so much, Ingrid, and thank you, Elisa. You guys have done incredible work with Bayou Blue, and I've been involved with it for a long time, so thanks for having me. And as David said, Texas Signal is an incredible organization. Please follow it. It is taking care of a space that we need badly in the States. So it's a great organization. Please make sure you sign on it. So I don't know if you know, my name is Sima Ladjevardian. I will be the first Iranian American in Congress, and it'll be your first woman representing District 2. I'm an attorney, I'm an immigrant, I'm a mother of 2. I'm a breast cancer survivor, and I've worked in community activism and political activism for many years. And public service is not new to me. My grandmother was one of the first women in Congress in Iran, and by sheer force of determination, she was able to pass the women's right to vote. And at a time that progress was just impossible. So I'm really following in her footsteps, and it may look daunting that I'm going after Trump's favorite Texan, but really I've never been afraid, and I've always defied all the odds, as far as a woman and as an immigrant. As a young girl, I left political persecution and revolution. I remember revolt going on in the streets and being so scared having to leave my home, but I defied the odds and I made it here. And years later, I really used this beautiful American dream, came to this incredible city, have been successful, have my daughter, you know, my children and my husband, and I got my cancer news. And again, you know, I had to deal with going to the hospital, dealing with so many issues. And again, I was afraid and I thought I would give up, but I defied all the odds. And I feel like what our country is going through right now really reminds me of a lot of those life-changing moments. You know, we're living in a nation where there are millions that are protesting against injustice and brutality. And we have a president and enabler like Crenshaw who just wants submission without any kind of progress. And we're living in a nation right now where hundreds of thousands have died. We have millions who have lost their jobs. And again, you know, you have someone like Crenshaw who wants to take healthcare away from the most vulnerable. He has been spewing lies about, you know, what masks do, changing his story all the time, just have really been on the wrong side of what morality and justice needs to be. And I know we're living in a nation now that we may feel that like our backs are against the wall, and really that incredible American dream of life, liberty, and justice that I always talk about may seem in jeopardy, but I know from experience, I know how we're also dedicated, how you are also dedicated. And I know together we will defy all the odds. So I'm just really excited that you're all on board. I mean, this is a time, it's been so clear. Sadly, just in Houston, we've had a 500% increase in the number of COVID cases. And it's just unconscionable that our elected leaders just don't even realize that you got to give facts out. You got to show leadership. You have to really, you can't just play with people's lives like this. And, you know, healthcare is very close to me. Again, in the middle of this crisis, you know, they've been trying to gut ACA. Texas is already the least covered state in the nation. Our number one provider of mental health care is, you know, our Harris County jail. Now we have all these people out of jobs, and then they have to be scared on top of it to lose their health care. And you know, this truly is an existential time in our country. I tell this every day. I love that I see that all this excitement has built up. I know we're going to flip Texas. Everybody's, you know, excited. We have to make so many changes right now. And I know voting is going on right now. And thanks to everything that Chris Hollins and then Diane Troutman had done, I haven't gone to the polls yet. I'm planning to go on Friday, but I hear everything is very smooth. It's socially distanced, it's careful. So it's just a matter of getting the word out there, making sure that this is really the most important election of our lifetime when it comes to climate, when it comes to equality, to justice. So I want to please ask all of you, please join the campaign, volunteer. Please make sure you put out, you know, any post that you see, just repost it, retweet it, put the name out there, and please do make contributions. It makes, you know, races are expensive and they take dark money. You know, like you all know Crenshaw campaign on bringing down prescription drug prices. And the minute he was elected, he took pharma money and he voted against it. So they have dark money coming in, we don't. So any money you can contribute, anybody you can bring on this campaign, we are looking for volunteers. We're not going to be door knocking right now. What we've been doing is making a lot of calls, making sure everybody's okay in the districts. We've been doing voter registration, helping, you know, a different organization, and we're doing more and more. So we would love volunteers. And we've been doing also a lot of efforts with the Women for Sima, you know, providing masks, providing food with the different hospitals to the food bank and different things. But really, we need help. We have less than 4 months to go. Nobody can be a bystander. So just put the message out. I know we're going to win this, and I am so excited to have all of you on board. So please join the campaign. And, you know, you can go on info@simafortexas.com. You can email me. Everybody has my cell. You know, I'm on the call. And if you want me to meet anybody, talk to anybody, again, thank you. Thank you for doing this, and can't wait to win this with all of you.
Thank you so much, Sima. And I want to just emphasize that our club, Bayou Blue, has been holding a few phone banks, and Rob Hallenbach is our board member who has been organizing those. We have a specific list that overlaps our next candidate, Ann Johnson at SD 134, with Sima. And so it's been, we did a couple that was just trying to emphasize voter registration, but it seemed like they were all registered. So now it's more informational. But I'll tell you, the phone banks are better now than in the past. I can't say that I'm a great phone bank enjoyer, but now people actually want to talk and they're more accessible. And if you look at our website or our Facebook page, you can find the information. The emails that we send out, just how you found out about this meeting, has the information for our upcoming phone bank. So please check that out, or at the campaign websites for any of the candidates. So, all right. Well, next up we have Anne. Hi, welcome.
Hi, Ingrid. Thank you so much. It is really an honor to be here tonight. And just as Ingrid began to say, I could not be more excited about being part of this panel, because we are looking at two really important congressional races in CD2 and CD7, for Sima winning against Crenshaw and then keeping Congresswoman Lizzie Fletcher. And House District 134 covers both of those districts. And so we have an opportunity to run and push Democrats across the finish line, top of the ticket, from electing Biden as president all the way down to these important congressional and state house races. And just as Ingrid said, we have races that are up in the runoffs right now for our judicial spots. And one of the things that we are finding is we have not stopped working since our primary win. We have continued to stay engaged with voters. And what we are hearing across the board is everybody understands that it is critical this election cycle to elect Democrats. And we always knew that 2020 was going to be important. But think about all the things that have happened since that primary. Think about what we are seeing now with COVID-19, what's happening in Houston. Just as Ingrid and Sima have already said, some of the policy decisions that have been made by Republicans, politicizing things like masks and truly putting people at risk. Everyone is seeing that we have to change our leadership. And one of our commitments is going to be ensuring that as soon as we get elected from this district, we start working to save lives. And saving lives means taking responsible action around this public health crisis, including something that we should have done a decade ago, which is Medicaid expansion. We are still one of only a few states that refuses to allow people to have coverage because of partisan goals for those like Governor Greg Abbott. We have the highest rate of uninsured children, and 1 in 4 women don't have access to health care. That is unconscionable, it's been wrong, and in the moment of this pandemic, we see how it is deadly. We are also going to save lives by passing common sense gun reform, background checks, extreme risk protection orders, and safe storage. And I have to say, recently I was speaking with one of my former students and I said, hey, I need your help in this campaign. And he said, well, I'm gonna help you, but don't take away my guns. And he said, I don't know what you're talking about on this common sense gun reform. And I said, well, let's talk about it. Would you pass a background check? And he said, well, of course. And I said, if something happened to you and you were in the middle of an episode where you were a danger to your wife and kids, would you want someone to take that weapon and protect them? Well, of course. Do you store your weapon in such a way that your kids can't access it and hurt themselves? Or if someone breaks into your home, that they can't get your gun and take it and hurt somebody else? And he said, well, of course. And I said, then we're talking about the same thing. Texas has had 4 of the top 10 mass shootings in the last 2 years, and our current Republican leadership has not taken any action on this critical, vital issue. And it's not just those mass shootings, it's the everyday gun violence and the impact it has on all of us, and especially communities of color. Let's talk about rebuilding our economy and doing so in such a way that we take advantage of renewable energy and start addressing the issue of climate change in a win-win function of protecting our environment and then taking advantage of West Texas winds and solar to begin a renewed energy economy in Texas for the future. And then let's talk about fighting for public education, because the last time Republicans were in the majority and had a down budget like we are seeing today, they balanced their poor policy decisions off the future of children by cutting $5.3 billion from public ed and slashing 10,000 teacher jobs. They did that more than a decade ago, and they still haven't filled in for those gaps. So we don't trust Republicans going into 2021. And we especially don't trust them around the issue of gerrymandering and redistricting, which means all the work that we've been doing in CD7, what's happening in CD2 with Sima, those districts and that movement that you have made to elect Congresswoman Lizzie Fletcher. This comes down to who you elect in your state rep district this next election, because who you send to Austin will drive for the next 10 years. And so that is why this House race is so critical. We are the #1 seat to flip in Texas. I am so proud to be endorsed by Beto, who won it by 60%. I am proud to be endorsed by Emily's List, Annie's List, Victory Fund, the teachers, so many others. But it really is you and your enthusiasm of Bayou Blue Democrats to make sure that we get out and we get out the message. So we would love to have you join us. I know Ingrid said it earlier when we were just chatting. I can't wait to get back to the activism. And while we miss seeing all of you in person, and we want everyone to stay healthy, our activism is not stopping. We are phone banking constantly. We are reaching out to voters. And I will tell you, these conversations are going really, really well because people have believed or had a perception that Sarah Davis was somehow moderate. And then we have that conversation about what a moderate Republican means for Governor Greg Abbott. And it means somebody that electing her ensures that he has the power to redraw lines. It means electing somebody who passed the anti-immigration show me your papers legislation. It would mean electing somebody who remains loyal to the NRA, who's cut public education and defended and fought at Obamacare at every turn. That is not moderate. And so you are entitled to have a good Democratic representative in this district to be there to fight not only for our priorities in Texas, but to ensure that we have fair lines in our congressional races. So we are up for it, and we would love to have you join us as we keep moving forward. So Ingrid, thank you so much for having me on tonight. I'm grateful for the chance to visit with Bayou Blue Democrats at any time.
Well, thank you again. And I was so impressed when I first met you, and now that you're on the highway down to November, I just think you articulate everything so clearly about Sarah Davis and her, you know, attempts at trying to convince us that she's a moderate, and we can see that she's not, and that's the most important thing for us to realize, because there's so many times she could have stood up and taken action for our district and she hasn't, and so we just need to know that. So okay, well, thank you so much, and please check out Ann's website. And when we say that, I know that takes that next step of effort. You have to click on that link, but once you get there, you will see things you can do. And we will also send a follow-up message after this meeting too, because I promise you these virtual things do make you feel connected, and it does make you feel good when you can feel like you've done something to further the cause. So.
And Ingrid, I see that our team is also putting links in the chat. So if people want, just to make it easier, if you go into the chat, I see there are links for our campaign, there's links for Sima. I'm sure there are going to be links for others. So thank you again for giving us a chance to reach people.
Of course, and look forward to seeing you more, and we'll be supporting you through our club for the rest of the run down to November. Goodbye. Thank you for joining us. And then is Helen, let's see, do we have Helen with us? There Hi. You go. Hi, sorry, Helen. I'm working through it all, and I'm glad it seems to be working technically well so far. So it's so nice to see you, and we're looking forward to having you fill us in on Lizzie's campaign, what the latest news and events are. Please let us know everything you can about how she's fighting for us in Washington and how we can help in her campaign through November.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm an intern with Lizzie's campaign right now. I'm about to start work as a field organizer next week, though, actually. And so, yeah, just to give you guys a bit of an update. Right now, kind of like how Sima mentioned, we're really focusing on making phone calls since we're not going door to door right now. And so, yeah, we're really leaning into the phone banking, and we are kind of approaching it as the angle of asking people how they are, with the pandemic. And then we're also using the phone banking as a way to take note if someone is in need of resources, they're having trouble getting food on the table or something, and then using that to then give back. And I know, I cannot remember exactly when this was, but a few weeks ago, maybe last month, we had a day of action where Lizzie and her campaign, a bunch of supporters met and packaged up groceries and delivered them to people. And it was a great event, really good turnout. It was outdoors, everyone was wearing a mask. So it's cool to see that, you know, we can just be creative and like find ways to take action in ways that are responsible, you know, during the pandemic. So that was pretty exciting. And then I know she has another day of action coming up, but I don't know off the top of my head when it is, and I don't want to say the wrong date. But actually, I was hoping to get, I'll have like some links to share maybe afterwards. I don't know what the best way would be to like follow up. Like, Ingrid, should I pass along to you, or how can I like send stuff to everyone in the group?
I think when you're finished presenting, while the meeting is still going on, if you have some links in the chat, just send them to everybody. That's what we've been doing. And that way everybody who's attending the meeting can see it and click on that. And then after the meeting too, we'll capture those and send them out in our follow-up meetings. So that's the best way to do it, I think.
Okay, sounds good, thanks. Yeah, and so we would love to have anyone get involved with the phone banking. We're doing weekly trainings for the phone banking, which you know, some people like may not be interested in attending. If you already have an open VPD account, then you definitely like don't need to go to the training if you don't want to, but we're doing that weekly. And then we would just love to have anyone join us for the phone banking. And we're also rolling out text banking pretty soon. I think that's probably gonna be like, we're gonna be texting more closer to the election, but just know that if phone banking is not really your thing, there are definitely other options, other ways for you to get involved.
Can I ask you, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead.
So is Lizzie's office now, I know we were all used to going down to Richmond right there around Kirby, but is she back over on Augusta Drive or?
Oh, I'm actually not totally sure. I don't know. I as far as I'm aware, like people aren't in an office, but I'm actually not in Houston right now. So I'm definitely totally digital, but as far as I'm aware, the entire campaign is just remote. Like everyone's working from home. Yeah.
Okay, great. I just was thinking about picking up signs or anything like that. But
that's actually my next point, which is if anybody wants.
So sorry.
You're fine. If anybody wants a yard sign, we can deliver them to you. I'll put the link in the chat for you to go to, but if you just go to Lizzie's website, there's a link right there to request a yard sign. So definitely would encourage everyone to do that. Yeah, and so those are kind of the main ways I have for you guys to get involved right now, is through like phone banking, text banking, or yard signs. But then additionally, I wanted to add that an important focus of our like field approach right now is just trying to like create as much like intimate, you know, interaction and like coalition building with people as much as possible. And so as a field organizer, I'll be like meeting with people, doing just one-on-one meetings to hear more about, you know, what like Democrats in Lizzie's district care about, like what it's like, you know, being a Democratic voter and organizer in Texas, you know, over the years, because I just graduated from Rice. I'm not from Houston originally, so I'm kind of like new here. And so, yeah, I would just love to like hear from you guys, get to meet you guys. And so if anyone is interested in setting up just a quick chat, I would love to hear from you. And so I will share my contact info with everyone as well. And so feel free to reach out. Yeah, and if anyone has any questions about Lizzie's campaign, just put it in the chat.
Well, thank you so much, Helen, and I do appreciate that. I know have a lot of enthusiasm for Lizzie. A lot of us the first time and need to make that does not get reversed. So,
right.
So yes, if you will just when you're finished, put any of those links in the chat, and we'll capture them, and everybody will get to see them, and we'll be on board for that. So thanks for joining us, and welcome to the campaign. And if you went to Rice, that can't mean that you haven't been in Houston for very long. So you've got the flavor. So.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
All right, you're welcome. Okay, and our next speaker is going to be a representative for Joe Biden's campaign. And you might recognize her last name, Sima Ladjevardian. Can you tell that politics is in their family? And without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Atisa and hear.
Great, thank you for having me. And I will like to preface, I'm here as a friend of the Bayou Blue Dem Club, but I happen to also work for the Vice President's campaign. So I'm gonna give a quick off-the-cuff update on what the campaign has been doing, how we're approaching winning in November, and a little bit about what I do. So about 2 months ago, we released our Path to 270, and we kind of put a few battleground states into 3 buckets. So we have the first bucket of states, which is protect. So it's to protect the states we won in 2016, Nevada, Virginia, Minnesota, states like that. And then the second bucket consists of states that we usually win that we lost in 2016. So it's the win back states, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Florida, Ohio. And then for our purposes, we have the expand bucket. So that's Georgia, Arizona, and Texas. So those three states, for the first time, we believe we can win. So I'll talk about Texas for a little bit. So about, I think 2 weeks ago, Fox News released a poll that had the vice president 1 point ahead of Donald Trump, which is amazing. So I think we are seriously considering Texas in play and investing heavily in the state. Talking about investment, what I do, so I work on the fundraising team. So I would like to highlight, in June, we outraised Donald Trump by 10 million. We raised 141 million in the month of June to his 131 million. So what does that mean? How are we gonna spend our resources in the state? How are we gonna contact voters? So we are bringing a lot of regional field organizers to Texas, not in person, unfortunately. I think the way the campaign's gonna work, because we're gonna have to work nationwide, the vice president wants to set a precedent and make sure he is complying with WHO regulations. So everything is gonna be virtual. That means organizers are gonna be virtual, kind of a little bit what Helen said, a lot of phone banking. There are gonna be no offices, unfortunately. So what the campaign will have is regional organizers that are stationed to Harris County, to Fort Bend, to DFW, and they'll be primarily working with you guys to recruit you guys to volunteer, to phone bank, et cetera, since there probably will be no door knocking before November, unfortunately. So I will get Ingrid the contact of our regional field organizer, because they will be the best person to plug you in if you want to volunteer, because I do not do that. So I'll get you once we have her on the ground, I should say. And I do want to highlight the things we have been doing in Texas so far. So last week, the Biden campaign did a roundtable with Congressman Allred and State Senator Jose Menendez about COVID-19 and the impact on Texas. And this week on Friday, which I'll also send you the Mobilize link, we are doing a joint event with the TDP, the Biden for President, and with Beto O'Rourke, talking about the economy and the Vice President's economic recovery plan. So tune into that. I think it will be a really good conversation and a stark contrast to what the president is currently putting out there. And then finally, if you want to get involved, I think I'm going to plug this because it's very near and dear to my heart, because I'm super involved with it. We have this group called Women for Biden. Me and my colleagues started it about a year ago, and we have 20,000 members across the country. And I personally think it's a good way to get engaged, because we have weekly calls on Thursday nights. Every other Thursday, we have a top tier surrogate. Last week, we had Senator Tammy Duckworth speak on the call, and it's completely free. All you need to do is sign up for Women for Biden. And then on the off weeks, we have training calls. Now that can range from anywhere from bringing a speaker or an author to talk about. A few weeks ago, we talked about racism and white privilege. This week, we had a conversation on how to get op-eds published as a woman. So it's like a super cool community and a good way to get involved without having to contribute. But of course, if you do want to contribute, I'm the person to reach out to. And then finally, I also wanted to highlight this week, we launched a Instagram outreach program called Team Joe Talks. Bradley Whitford, Stacey Abrams, Andrew Yang are doing a lot of stuff for us on Instagram to try to find different and cool ways to get younger voters engaged. So I would check that out on Instagram. And I think that's really about it. I will get you guys the information of the best person to reach out to when and if you want to volunteer, and if you want to contribute, if you want to be a part of some fundraisers we're having. That's my job. So I will send that stuff to Ingrid, and I can also drop it in the chat right now. But that's all I got. And thank you for having me, guys.
Well, Atisa, thank you so much. It's so exciting to hear what all the actions are and what's coming up. And I think all of those different things that you mentioned where we can get involved and hop onto meetings. And, you know, at this time, some of us are not as able to support financially as maybe in the past. So I just think it shows signs of great creativity and thinking that you have come up with all of those possibilities. So please do share that with us. And I just, here it makes me very excited. So thank you for taking the time to be with us. And I know that we're going to hear more from you. I hope our club can amplify any message that you and the Biden campaign have. And again, all of these other candidates, that's what we're here for. That's the purpose of our club, is to have a community where we all can share and grow and push for the knowledge, grassroots information that people need to have that may not all have the time to really investigate all the candidates and all the actions that they can take. So, so that is great. So just a few closing comments that I have. I believe that if we have your email address for attending today, we can send you any further information. So again, please reach out to us. We'll be reaching back out to you out there. Thank you for attending. I wanted to say that we are in the works for planning a virtual fundraiser in August, and the details have yet to be worked out. As everything, things are all kind of in flux, but it promises to be fun and interesting. We hope to be bringing you messages from lots of very interesting people and sharing a virtual cocktail or two perhaps during the fundraiser. So please look at your inboxes when you see something from Bayou Blue. We try not to inundate you. We try to just tell you our monthly meeting information and anything really important coming up. So just take a click and open our next email, and hopefully there'll be some interesting and fun news in there. Does anybody else on our panel have anything to add before we sign off?
We had a question about how people can get yard signs.
So this is Anne. We have lots of yard signs and we would love to have you put them out. I dropped in the chat our campaign manager, Emma. If you'll email Emma, E-M-M-A, at AnnJohnson.com, we'll get you as many signs as you want. We would love to have your help and get them out. So thank you so much.
Great. And Atisa, are you still there? Are there Biden yard signs, or does anybody have information on that?
Yeah, so we are coordinating with the TDP to get those out, actually. So I think that the TDP will actually have the Biden for President signs and distribute them to like probably the Harris County Democratic Party, but that will most likely be at the end of July.
Great, and I think actually Elisa may role in Senate District Chair, that might be a place. So yes, maybe Biden signs, you can contact our club or Lisa. And so great. And I think I saw something dropped in the chat for Lizzie also. And Sima, I know where to get those.
So there's a lot of it here, but you can you can email Noah, N-O-A-H, at simafortx.com.
Awesome. We'll put that in our information too when we get going.
I always love Sima's tower of signs.
Yeah.
I love the way she always has them stacked and runs around with a tower.
Yeah.
It's always good to have a tower.
So, and then, sorry if I ask Eliza one more question. I know when I've been on Zoom meetings, sometimes there's stuff in the chat that in the meeting. Can you keep that up for a second, even if our meeting is kind of, the content is over, but can you keep it open for a few minutes so people can click on all the attachments?
Sure.
Is that okay?
Yep, sounds good.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate each and every one of you who took the time out to join us this evening. And I especially appreciate all the candidates who are working so hard to turn this ship around. And we look forward to lots more information, and maybe we can have you back again before we put it all to vote in November. So,
hey, Ingrid, it looks like Kay has her hand raised. Kay, I'm going to unmute you here. So if you want to ask a question or say something.
My only point was I contacted the Democratic Party about Biden signs, and they gave me another gentleman's name. When I called him and emailed him, he said that Biden signs were $25. He's not a Maryland Blue, but they meet somewhere in Bear Lair. I forget the name of his club, but he told me I could probably contact him later. But the signs were $25 through Biden, which I don't understand. That's crazy for me to pay for a yard sign. But he said he thinks they have it set up where you could also do a donation. So that was a little strange to me that they would be $25. But the Democratic Party said they had none. So I was very baffled by that.
Yeah, thanks for your question. So Senate District 17 is planning on probably buying a large number of those, and we will have those available for just a suggested donation of $5. The cost is somewhere like between $2 or $3. So we can get you one of those, Kay.
Thank you, Elisa.
okay, are there any more questions? All right, well, let's get some yard signs, and don't forget about the blue flamingos too. We will decorate all of our yards and show our enthusiasm. And we will be in touch with our news for our August activities. I hope you can join us again then. Until then, everybody stay safe.